questions and answers from the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Today, Equality, Part 1, from Sri Aurobindo. The very first necessity for spiritual perfection is a perfect equality. Perfection, in the sense in which we use it in yoga, means a growth out of a lower, undivine, into a higher divine nature. In terms of knowledge, it is a putting on the being of the higher self and a casting away of the darker, broken lower self, or a transforming of our imperfect state into the rounded, luminous fullness of our real and spiritual personality. In terms of devotion and adoration, it is a growing into a likeness of the nature or the law of the being of the divine, to be united with whom we aspire. For if there is not this likeness, this oneness of the law of the being, unity between that transcending and universal and this individual spirit is not possible. The supreme divine nature is founded on equality. This affirmation is true of it, whether we look on the Supreme Being as a pure, silent self and spirit, or as the divine master of cosmic existence. The pure self is equal, unmoved, the witness in an impartial peace of all the happenings and relations of cosmic existence. While it is not averse to them, aversion is not equality, nor, if that were the attitude of the self to cosmic existence, could the universe come at all into being or proceed upon its cycles. A detachment, the calm of an equal regard, a superiority to the reactions which trouble and are the disabling weakness of the soul involved in outward nature, are the very substance of the silent infinite's purity and the condition of its impartial assent and support to the many-sided movement of the universe. But in that power, too, of the Supreme which governs and develops these motions, the same equality is a basic condition. A perfect equality of our spirit and nature is a means by which we can move back from the troubled and ignorant outer consciousness into this inner kingdom of heaven, and possess the Spirit's eternal kingdoms, Rajam, Samridham, of greatness, joy, and peace. That self-elevation to the divine nature is the complete fruit and the whole occasion of the discipline of equality demanded from us by the self-perfecting aim in yoga. A perfect equality and peace of the soul is indispensable to change the whole substance of our being into substance of the self, out of its present stuff of troubled mentality. It is equally indispensable if we aspire to replace our present confused and ignorant action by the self-possessed and luminous works of a free spirit governing its nature and in tune with universal being. A divine action, or even a perfect human action, is impossible if we have not equality of spirit and an equality in the motive forces of our nature. The self-perfecting individual who seeks to be one in will with the divine and make his nature an instrument of the divine purpose must enlarge himself out of the egoistic and partial views and motives of the human ignorance, and mold himself into an image of this supreme equality. This equal poise in action is especially necessary for the sadhaka of the integral yoga. First, he must acquire that equal assent and understanding which will respond to the law of the divine action without trying to impose on it a partial will and the violent claim of a personal aspiration. A wise impersonality, a quiescent equality, a universality which sees all things as the manifestations of the divine, the one existence, is not angry, troubled, impatient with the way of things, or on the other hand, excited, overeager, and precipitate, but sees that the law must be obeyed and the pace of time respected, observes and understands with sympathy the actuality of things and beings, but looks also behind the present appearance to their inner significances and forward to the unrolling of their divine possibilities, is the first thing demanded of those who would do works as perfect instruments of the divine. The perfected human soul must always be an instrument for the hastening of the ways of this evolution, for that a divine power, acting with the royalty of the divine will in it, must be in whatever degree present in the nature. But to be accomplished and permanent, steadfast in action, truly divine, it has to proceed on the basis of a spiritual equality, a calm, impersonal, and equal self-identification with all beings, an understanding of all energies. The divine acts with a mighty power in the myriad workings of the universe, but with the supporting light and force of an imperturbable oneness, freedom, and peace. That must be the type of the perfected soul's divine works. And equality is the condition of the being which makes possible this changed spirit in the action.